It was supposed to be a regular school day, but instead, I ended up trapped in total darkness, alone, in my classmate's basement, with no way out. I had no idea that saying hi to the new kid Aiden would lead to the most terrifying days of my life. He seemed completely normal at first. He was charming, quiet, and always offered help in class. But there was something strange in his eyes when I laughed too loud or talked to other boys. One day after school, Aiden asked me to come over for a group project. I agreed. He lived nearby and I didn't want to seem rude. When I entered his house, it was dead silent. "Where's everyone else?" I asked. He smiled and said, "They're coming. Just follow me downstairs for a sec." I screamed and banged on the door, but no one answered. My voice echoed off the cold, damp walls. I was trapped and totally alone. The only light came from a tiny window high above. I tried climbing, but it was too far. Panic gripped me like a vice. Hours passed. I cried until my throat hurt. Why would anyone do this? What did I ever do to deserve being locked in here? I heard footsteps above. I yelled, hoping someone would hear me, but the footsteps faded away. My heart sank into a deeper pit of fear. I looked around for anything useful. Just broken furniture and an old blanket. I wrapped myself in it, trying to stay calm and warm. Suddenly, the light switched off. I was plunged into total darkness. My breath quickened. Was someone messing with me, or was it just a coincidence? The sound of a creaking door echoed somewhere far off. I wasn't sure if it was real or just my mind playing tricks on me. I tried to keep track of time, but without light or a clock, everything blurred together. Day and night didn't exist down here. I thought about my family. Were they worried, searching for me, or did they think I had just run away? Terrors came again. My stomach growled constantly. There was no food. I felt weak and dizzy, but I forced myself to stay alert in case help arrived. Then, I heard something new scratching. My heart pounded. Was it a rat? Or something worse? I curled up, trying not to make a sound. The next morning, at least I think it was morning, a tiny slit of light returned through the window. I knew I had to stay strong. Suddenly, the door creaked open slowly. My breath caught. A shadowy figure stepped inside. I couldn't see their face. "Who's there?" I whispered shakily. It was Ella, my classmate. She looked different, calm, almost cold. "Now you know how it feels," she said, turning to leave. I begged her not to go, but she didn't even flinch. The door slammed shut again, and I was left in silence and confusion. What did she mean? Why was she doing this? Had I hurt her somehow? My mind raced with memories, trying to find a reason. In school, I was popular. Ella was shy. I never bullied her, but maybe I ignored her too much. Could that be it? Another day passed. She returned briefly, tossed me a granola bar, then left without saying anything. I devoured it like it was a feast. It became a pattern. She came, said cryptic things, left food, and disappeared. Each visit made me more desperate to understand and escape. One day, I asked, "Why are you doing this to me?" She paused. "Because nobody ever sees people like me. Unless we scream." I pressed my ear against the door, hoping to hear something, anything. But there was only silence. My heart sank, and the darkness felt heavier. I yelled again, louder this time, banging the walls. My voice cracked, but I refused to stop. Someone had to hear me. They just had to. Suddenly, I heard footsteps above. My body froze. Was it my classmate again, or someone who could help? I held my breath, listening carefully. The footsteps stopped directly above me. A shadow moved across the ceiling crack. I whispered, "Hello? Please, I'm down here." But no answer came. A loud thud followed, then silence. I panicked, unsure if they were gone or watching. Was this part of their twisted game? I felt sick. I backed into the corner, hugging my knees as fear crept in like a cold mist. The silence above was deafening, and I felt watched. My mind raced with questions. Why me? What did I ever do to deserve this? I thought of my parents and felt a lump in my throat. Suddenly, the bulb above flickered on for a split second, then went out again. It was enough to show me I wasn't alone. Someone stood there. My scream echoed through the basement, but the figure didn't move. Then it slowly stepped back into the darkness. I couldn't breathe. I felt paralyzed. I crawled to the far wall, frantically searching for anything sharp, anything I could use to defend myself. My hands shook as I felt around blindly. My fingers found a broken pipe, rusted and cold. It wasn't much, but it was something. I gripped it tight, trying to steady my breathing. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time didn't feel real anymore. I whispered my own name just to hear a human voice, just to stay sane. Then I heard it. A whisper from the shadows. "Why are you crying?" The voice was familiar, chilling. It was her, the classmate who trapped me. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, heart pounding. She giggled softly, the sound bouncing off the walls. "This is your lesson," she said. She dropped something through the trapdoor, my phone, but it was smashed. Broken screen. No signal. Then she slammed the door shut and vanished again. I held the broken phone close to my chest, as if it could still save me. Tears rolled down, mixing with the dust on my face. I remembered a safety video we watched in school, how to escape if trapped. I began counting bricks, checking for weak spots. I had to try. Every hour, I tapped on a section of wall with the pipe. Hollow sounds gave me hope, but exhaustion was setting in fast. I couldn't give up. I found an old wooden cabinet in the corner. Inside, there were beans and a moldy blanket. It felt like someone had been here before. Why did she do this? We weren't close, but I was never mean to her. I started piecing memories together, desperate for answers that made sense. I remembered her crying in class once, and no one went to her. Not even me. Could that moment have planted this dark seed inside her? The next morning, or what I guessed was morning, she returned. She opened the trapdoor and stared down at me. Her face was unreadable. "Had enough yet? Let me go," I whispered, weak but still fighting. She tilted her head. "I just want you to understand," she said, "what loneliness feels like." Then she threw down a notebook. It was full of drawings. Me, our school, her alone in every picture. My heart sank as I flipped through. I tried talking to her, begging. "You don't have to do this. We can get help together." She hesitated, but then shut the door again, harder this time. My voice was hoarse from shouting, but I kept whispering her name, hoping something inside her would crack. I didn't want to give up on her. I reread the notebook page by page. It was filled with pain-silent screams drawn in pen. How had no one seen this? How had I not? Suddenly, I heard a creak, not from above, but behind the wall. I froze. Another sound. A low shuffle. Was someone else down here? Or something? I pressed my ear to the wall. Breathing. Slow and raspy. It wasn't her. My blood ran cold. "Who's there?" I whispered, backing away into the shadows. There was no answer, only silence. Maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe it was the hunger. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone anymore. The next time she came back, her eyes looked red and tired. "You're not eating," she said, tossing a granola bar down. "You'll get sick." I didn't move. "There's someone else down here," I said. Her face froze. Then she laughed, but not convincingly. "Nice try. I'm not falling for that." She left in a hurry, but she looked nervous. That was the first time I saw fear in her. Maybe she didn't know everything about this place. That night, I heard it again. Breathing, then a scrape. I lit the broken flashlight, shaking. In the far corner, something moved. A shadow shifted slowly. It wasn't human. I couldn't tell what it was, but I knew now I was trapped with more than just my classmates' cruelty. I had to escape. I curled into a corner, clutching the flashlight like it could protect me. Every creak, every whisper of air felt like a threat. I barely slept. Morning light didn't reach the basement, but I could tell time passed by the heaviness in my eyes. I had to think clearly to survive. She returned, wearing a bright yellow hoodie. "You look scared," she mocked. "Maybe I should stay down here with you." I couldn't hide my trembling hands. "You're not the only monster here," I said, staring into her eyes. For a moment, something flickered in her expression. Was it guilt? Or something else? She threw a blanket at me and left without a word. That flicker, I had to reach it again. Maybe there was still a piece of her that cared. I decided to test her. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I was silent for 2 full days. On the third, she came and panicked. "Are you dead?" she whispered, shaking me. I opened my eyes slowly. "You care," I said. She slapped me, but her hands trembled. She was unraveling. That night, I heard her pacing above me, yelling, crying. She wasn't okay, and that might be the only reason I was still alive. She came back with a photo. It was of us in middle school. "You smiled at me once," she said. "No one else ever did." I wanted to scream that this wasn't how love or friendship worked, but instead, I said softly, "You could have just talked to me." She dropped the photo and ran upstairs. The door slammed shut. I finally felt it, she was breaking. But would she free me or finish this madness? I examined the walls again, feeling for weakness. There was a thin crack behind the furnace. With time, I could dig through it. I had to try. Using a broken pipe, I scraped at the wall each night after she left. It was slow, painful work, but it gave me hope. My fingers bled. My arms ached, but the crack grew. Behind it, I heard faint echoes. Maybe it led to another room or an exit. She noticed the dust. "What are you doing?" she screamed. I braced for another slap, but instead, she collapsed, sobbing into her hands. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered. "I just wanted you to stay." I felt torn between rage, fear, and a strange, deep pity. "Then let me go," I said. "If you care at all, set me free." "You don't need to do this." She shook her head slowly. "I can't go back to being invisible." She backed away, locking the door. I knew then I couldn't wait for her to change. I had to escape. That night, I worked faster, tearing through the plaster until a hole the size of my fist appeared. Beyond it, I saw another dark room, but this one had a ladder, a rusted metal ladder leading up. My heart nearly burst. I was close, so close to freedom. The next time she came, I acted weak and silent, hiding the hole behind a pile of boxes. She didn't notice. My plan was working. As soon as she left, I squeezed through the gap. My skin scraped against broken bricks, but I didn't care. I reached the ladder. The metal creaked loudly. My breath caught with every step. One wrong sound, and she'd come back. But I kept climbing, my heart pounding in my ears. At the top, there was a small hatch. I pushed. It didn't budge. I pushed harder, using every ounce of strength I had left. It cracked open with a groan. Fresh air rushed in. I almost cried. I hoisted myself up into an old garage filled with junk and dust. I ran, barefoot, across broken concrete and weeds. The sun was setting, but it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I was free. I burst into a neighbor's yard, pounding on the door, screaming for help. A woman answered, eyes wide with shock. She called 911 immediately. Police came within minutes. I could barely speak, my throat dry and my body shaking. But I told them everything about the basement, about her. They arrested her the same night. I watched from the ambulance as she was led away in handcuffs. She didn't resist. She looked empty. At the hospital, doctors treated my wounds and dehydration. My parents rushed in, crying, hugging me. For the first time in days, I felt safe. I stayed silent for a long time. Reporters tried to talk to me. My classmates stared. I didn't want fame, I just wanted peace. The trial happened 3 months later. I testified with shaking hands. She sat there, quiet, not looking at me. She got 7 years in prison. I started therapy. Nightmares haunted me for weeks, but slowly, I healed. I journaled every day. I took long walks. I spoke when I was ready. My school offered to let me finish online, but I chose to return. I wouldn't let fear steal my future. I was stronger than that. People whispered, but I held my head high. I joined the drama club. I spoke in class. I lived louder than ever before. One day, I passed the old house. It was boarded up, forgotten, but I wasn't. I survived. I moved on. I wrote my own ending. A year later, I was invited to speak at a youth conference. I shared my story. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. I told them, survival isn't just getting out. It's choosing to keep going. Every day after, people clapped. Some cried. I knew I wasn't alone. Today, I help others who face trauma. I speak, I write, I listen. What happened to me doesn't define me, but it made me fierce. My name is Emily. I survived after my classmate locked me in the basement. And I'll never stop telling my story because survival is just the beginning.
Life went on, slowly, painfully. I started a part-time job at a bookstore. Stacked fiction on one side, memoirs on the other. I lived in between. Every so often, someone would ask about my dad. I'd pause, then say, "We're not close." A lie, but easier than the truth. Mom visited often. She never brought him up, but I caught her glancing at wedding photos she hadn't taken down yet. Grief comes in stillness. One day, a package arrived at my college dorm. No return address. Inside, a photo album. Me as a baby, him holding me, his handwriting inside. "Forgive me." I almost threw it out. Instead, I shoved it in the back of my closet. Memory can't be deleted like a voicemail, but it can be buried. Marie reached out again. Ava wanted to pass the time. I hesitated, but agreed. When her little face lit up on the screen, something cracked in me. She showed me her drawings, her school awards, asked when I'd visit. I told her soon, and I meant it for once. That summer, I flew to see them, just for a weekend. Marie picked me up. Ava hugged me like I'd been missing, not gone. We ate dinner together. They didn't talk about him. Neither did I. But his ghost was in every room. Every time Ava said, "My daddy," that night, Marie sat beside me on the porch. She asked, "Do you hate me less now?" I said, "I never hated you." And I meant it. She told me he still lies, still divides, still makes promises he doesn't keep. He loves her, she said, but he doesn't know how to love right. I said, "That's the most honest thing anyone's ever said about him." We clinked coffee mugs like they were wine glasses at a broken wedding. Before I left, Ava handed me a necklace she made from beads. "It's friendship," she said. I wore it on the plane home. Back at school, I started journaling everything. Not to publish, not for therapy, but to keep myself from forgetting how I got here. Dad emailed again, said he was sick. Nothing urgent, just getting older. It felt like bait, but part of me wondered if it was true. I showed Mom the email. She didn't react much, just said, "You don't owe him anything." But she didn't say not to go. I went, out of curiosity more than compassion. He looked thinner, more gray, still tried to smile like nothing happened. It didn't work. He said he had heart problems, meds, checkups, fatigue. I thought maybe it was karma, he joked. I didn't laugh. Some jokes rot in the throat. I stayed an hour. He tried to bring up memories. "Remember your 5th birthday?" I said, "No, I was too busy being a kid you forgot." Before I left, he said, "Thank you for coming." I replied, "Don't read into it." I wasn't there to heal him, just to confirm reality. The next week, I dreamed of him dying, not tragically, just quietly. A man alone in a chair, holding a photo of people who never came back. I told my therapist about the dream. She asked, "Would that bring you peace?" I said, "No, just a different kind of pain." Fall came. I turned 21. No card from him. I didn't expect one. Still, I checked the mailbox like hope had a tracking number. Marie texted on my birthday. Ava made a video singing. I cried in the dorm stairwell, clutching the phone like it was family in my hand. I started sending Ava letters. Not emails, real letters. I told her stories from my childhood, the parts of our dad that were good, the rare ones. I left out the lies, the cheating, the abandonment. She'd learn one day, but she deserved a few years of wonder before the truth came crashing. One weekend, I brought Mom to campus. She met my friends, toured the bookstore, cried in the student union. I didn't think we'd make it this far. That night, she said, "You didn't just survive this, you rebuilt yourself." I hugged her for a long time. The kind of hug that says thank you and sorry. Dad's illness got worse. Marie confirmed it quietly. He's in the hospital more now. I asked if Ava knew. She said, "She thinks he's just tired." I wrote him a letter. 3 pages. I told him everything, how I felt, what I'd lost, what I was still afraid of. I never mailed it. Instead, I read it out loud in my dorm room. Just me. Like a eulogy for the man who raised me, and the stranger who replaced him. Spring came. I visited his hospital room. Marie was there. Ava too. The three of us stood by his bed like the fractured family tree we were. He looked at all of us. For once, he didn't try to explain. He just whispered, "I'm sorry." And for the first time I believed it. He reached for my hand. I let him. It didn't erase anything, but it was real. Sometimes the smallest touch holds the loudest truth. We sat there in silence. No plans, no drama, just the weight of everything he'd built and broken, suspended in the quiet hum of machines. Afterward, Ava asked, "Is he going to heaven?" I said, "I don't know, but I think he wants to." She nodded like that was enough. That night, Maria and I talked for hours. We cried, laughed. She said, "I used to think you'd hate me forever." I said, "I hated him enough for both of us." When I returned to college, I felt lighter, not happy, just clearer, like closure had quietly entered the room and closed a window I never opened. Final exams came and went. Life sped forward. One day I checked my email. No message from Dad. It felt strange. And then okay. A week later, Marie called. No words, just crying. I knew. My father was gone. The man I loved. The man I hated. The man who failed us all. He was cremated. No funeral. Just a small memorial at a park near the hospital. Marie invited us. Mom said no, I said yes. The park was quiet. Ava wore a black dress and held a single white rose. Marie cried silently. I stood still, waiting to feel something. A nurse spoke briefly. No priest. No sermon, just stories, mostly from Marie, one from a neighbor, nobody from our side. His other life showed up, not ours. Ava handed me the rose. "Can you throw it for me?" I walked to the riverbank and tossed it in. It floated like memory, slow, painful, fading. Later, I helped clean out his apartment. Marie couldn't do it alone. His drawers were full of half-lived intentions, unfinished books, expired medicine, unopened birthday cards. One box was labeled J inside. My drawings, old report cards, a lock of my baby hair. I sat on the floor and cried. He saved everything, even while lying to us. I didn't know what hurt more, his betrayal, or the proof that he still cared somewhere in that mess. I took the box, not out of love, out of ownership. I was reclaiming the part of me he kept in secret. Marie asked if I wanted anything else. I took a photo of him holding both me and Ava, different years. Same crooked smile. That felt like enough. That night, Maria and I drank wine on the porch. She said, "I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone again." I said, "Same." She said she might move, start over. I told her Ava could write me anytime. "She thinks you're the brave one," she added. I wasn't sure I was. Mom wasn't home when I returned. Just a note on the counter. Took a weekend away. I needed space. She never said that before. The house was silent, yet full. Like grief had unpacked its bags and made itself comfortable in every room. I opened the box again, the one with my stuff. Found a letter addressed to my first daughter, unopened. I stared at it for an hour. When I finally read it, he wrote about fear, regret. He said I was the only thing he ever did right. I wanted to believe him. I showed the letter to Mom when she returned. She didn't cry. She just nodded. "He said that to me too," she whispered. But then he left anyway. We sat together that night, not speaking, just holding hands. That was the closest we'd been in months. The grief didn't hit all at once. It came in moments, a song, a smell, a phrase he used to say. Grief was patient. It waited for you. At college, people asked why I missed a week. Family stuff, I said. No one asked more. That was the mercy of polite curiosity. Ava called. Her face looked older, even if she was only 10. "Is he in the sky now?" she asked. "Maybe," I replied. "Or everywhere." She asked if she could still call me her sister. "Of course," I said. "That didn't die with him." She smiled. "Good, 'cause I still need one." I got a small tattoo. Just a thin line down my wrist. A symbol for truth. I didn't want to forget the line he crossed. Mom saw it one weekend. "It's simple," she said. I told her, "It's not supposed to be pretty. It's supposed to be permanent." She nodded. Marie moved to Seattle. Said she needed a different skyline. Ava wrote postcards, always addressed to my sister who gets it. I kept them all. I started therapy again. Told my new therapist the entire story. She said, "You've lived through 3 lives by 22. I laughed. And I still don't trust happy endings. I kept Dad's photo in my desk drawer. Sometimes I'd pull it out, just to remember the look on his face when he said, "I'm sorry." I wrote a short essay about him. Didn't name names, just titled it "The Man Who Taught Me What Not to Become." My professor called it devastating and honest. She asked if it was fiction. I said, "Don't we all wish it was?" I started dating someone, slowly, carefully. I told him I didn't believe in forever. He said, "Neither do I, but maybe I believe in trying." That was enough. One night I told him about my dad, everything. When I finished, he didn't say anything poetic. He just held my hand. That was better than words. I told Mom I was seeing someone. She smiled genuinely. "Be careful," she said. Not with fear but experience. We both knew what men were capable of. I asked her once if she ever missed him. "I miss who I thought he was," she said. But that man never really existed. For her birthday, I framed a picture of just the two of us. No dads, no men, just us, standing in the wreckage we survived. She hung it in the hallway, right where the wedding photo used to be. That told me everything I needed to know. Ava wrote a story for school about having two homes and one truth. Her teacher said it was profound. I told her, "So are you." Years later, I still dream of him. Sometimes he's kind. Sometimes he's a stranger. Sometimes he's just standing in a doorway, saying nothing, just existing. I no longer hate him, but I don't forgive him either. I live somewhere in between where grief and clarity meet. Someone once said, "You can love someone and still choose to walk away." That sentence became my compass through every complicated memory of him. His double life ended when he died, but mine continued. I'm the bridge between the stories, his shame, and our survival. And every day I wake up, choose honesty, choose family, choose truth. That's how I know I didn't become him. I became me. Years passed. I graduated with a master's degree in social work. Helping others felt like the one thing that made sense after years of emotional chaos. I didn't specialize in trauma because of him, but I understood it deeply. I knew how silence wounds louder than words ever could. Ava turned 13. Marie emailed. She's starting to ask real questions. I knew this day would come. You can't raise a daughter inside a lie forever. I called Ava that weekend. She was quieter than usual. I asked if something was wrong. She said, "Mom won't tell me why Dad left you guys." I took a long breath. Because he thought he could live two lives. She said nothing, just nodded. She already knew the truth, she just needed it confirmed. Marie later thanked me, said she'd been dreading that moment for years. You handled it better than I would have, she said. I wasn't sure it was praise. Mom was aging too. She started painting, gardening more. She didn't talk about him anymore. He became a name we'd scratched off the family tree. One evening she said, "You know, we made it." I said, "You did." She replied, "We both did. Just took longer for you to believe it." I finally visited his grave. It was a small plaque by a tree. No flowers, no visitors, just dirt and memory. I brought none. I stood there a while, not sad, not angry, just acknowledging he was gone, and I was still here. That had to mean something. I whispered, "You made me strong." Not out of gratitude, but out of survival. Sometimes we grow through the cracks someone else leaves behind. On the drive home, I played his favorite song, a soft 80 seconds track. It used to annoy me. Now, it just sounded like distance. Ava emailed me a poem she wrote. I have a sister I didn't meet until I already needed her. I printed it and framed it. I hung it in my apartment hallway. So every time I walked out the door, I remembered that truth can bloom after the lie dies. Marie remarried. A gentle man named Thomas. Ava liked him. He didn't try to replace Dad, just became a safe place to land. She invited me to the wedding. I hesitated. But then Ava called and said, "You're my only sister. Please be there." So I went. At the ceremony, Marie looked happy in a way I'd never seen before. Peaceful, not performing, not pretending. She had finally rewritten her ending. Ava gave a speech. She mentioned her dad briefly, then moved on. Her voice didn't shake. Her eyes didn't tear. That's how I knew she was healing. After the wedding, we danced. Just me and Ava under the garden lights. "Do you miss him?" she asked. I said, "I miss what he could have been." She nodded. Same. We didn't need more words. Sometimes mutual understanding is louder than grief. Later that year, I published an essay in a national magazine. when your father belongs to the families. It went viral. I wasn't ready for that. People reached out, some kind, some angry. Some said I was brave, others said I was cruel. The truth has a habit of dividing crowds. Ava was proud. She said, "Now they'll understand what I lived through even if they don't say it." That meant more than all the likes and shares. Mom read it in silence, then handed it back and said, "You told the truth. That's all we ever wanted, right?" I nodded. Exactly that. One night I dreamt he apologized again. Only this time, I was the one who said, "I'm sorry too for expecting you to be someone you weren't." I woke up crying, not out of pain but out of peace. I was finally starting to let go of the version of him I'd clung to. Ava started high school. She joined drama club, wrote scripts. "I want to tell stories that don't lie," she said. I smiled. "You already are." We visited Mom for Christmas. Ava brought her new stepdad. The room was full of warmth and mismatched joy, but it felt real. That was new. We all exchanged gifts. No awkwardness. No ghosts. Just humans trying again. I realized then, sometimes family isn't about who broke you, it's who stayed after. Later, Mom gave Ava a photo album. "Only pictures of us. No lies in this one," she said. Ava clutched it like gold. That night, I stood by the window and watched snowfall. I thought about how far we'd come from secrets to honesty, from him to us. I asked Mom if she'd ever felt whole again. She said, "Not whole, but rebuilt." And I like this version better. I understood that completely. Sometimes I still catch myself waiting for a call from him, but it doesn't hurt anymore. It's just a habit that hasn't died yet. I started mentoring teenagers with complicated families. I didn't tell them my story, but I listened to theirs like someone once should have listened to me. Ava sent me her school play script. It was titled, "Two Names, One Truth." I cried reading it. Her pain was there, but so was her voice. I told her, "You're braver than I was at your age." She replied, "Because I had you." That was the moment I knew we'd both survived him. Marie texted me a photo. Ava standing beside a poster of her play, smiling, confident, free. I saved it to my favorites. I printed 2 copies of the photo, one for Ava, one for Mom. I kept none for myself. They were the ones who needed it framed. Sometimes healing doesn't look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like strength passed down through women who refuse to be erased. And sometimes, if you're lucky, the story that broke you becomes the story that binds you to something stronger. Ava got into NYU. She called me the second she opened the email. "We did it," she shouted. I corrected her. "You did it, kiddo." I helped her move into the dorm. As we unpacked, she found the poem she'd written years ago. "I kept this," she whispered, "to stay grounded." Later that night, we walked around Washington Square Park. She said, "I'm scared of becoming like him." I said, "That fear will make you better, not worse." I visited her every few months. Each time, she'd grown more confident, more sure of herself, but the past always peeked through the cracks. One winter evening, she said, "I'm dating someone. I haven't told him about Dad." I said, "You don't owe anyone your scars, but you should trust who earns them." His name was Jordan. Smart, funny, kind. Ava introduced us one afternoon at a bookstore cafe. He shook my hand like I mattered. He didn't ask about her family, just treated her like a whole person. That in itself was a quiet miracle. Ava told him the truth 6 months in. She called me afterward. "He didn't run," she said. "He just hugged me and asked what I needed." I smiled quietly. There are moments that signal generational healing. That was one of them. Meanwhile, Mom had slowed down. She moved to a smaller place, started forgetting names, leaving pots on the stove. It was subtle, but we saw it. Ava and I took turns visiting her. We organized her medications, made labeled boxes, cooked in batches. This was the family we built by choice, not blood. One night, Mom looked at Ava and said, "You're the second chance your dad never took." Ava nodded. "I intend to use it well." We laughed together that evening, all 3 of us, like the world hadn't broken us down, just chipped away everything unnecessary. Mom passed away peacefully one spring morning. In her sleep, under a quilt she'd sewn herself. I sat by her for hours, just holding her hand. Ava arrived within hours. She climbed into bed next to her and whispered, "Thank you for fighting." We didn't cry loudly. We just sat with the silence. At the funeral, there weren't many people, but there was warmth. People spoke of her strength, her quiet kindness, the way she always remembered birthdays. I read a short eulogy. She was not a victim of betrayal, but the architect of our survival. People clapped through their tears. Afterward, we spread her ashes in the same park she once walked every Sunday. Ava said, "She belongs in the breeze now." I agreed. Grief was heavy that first year, but we were used to carrying weight. It didn't crush us. It just made us pause more often. I finally moved out of the old apartment. Too many ghosts, too much dust. Ava helped me pack, each item like a tiny goodbye. We found one old box labeled Dad. I almost threw it out. Ava stopped me. "Let's open it." So we did. Inside were old receipts, letters, photos, some from before either of us were born. A man trying to be everything and succeeding at nothing. Ava found a letter he wrote to Mom before I was born. It said, "I will never fail you." We both laughed bitterly. We burned the letter that night, not in anger but as ritual. Some promises deserve a proper funeral. I started writing a memoir. I called it The Truth Between Two Homes. Not for revenge, for understanding, for all the daughters like us. It was published by a small press. Didn't make bestseller lists. But the emails I got were everything. "Thank you." They all said, "Me too." Ava read it cover to cover in one night. "You told it like it happened, not like it should have." That's powerful. Jordan proposed. Ava called me, shrieking and crying. He asked me in the bookstore where we met. I told her, "You deserve all the pages he brings." The wedding was small, beautiful. I walked her down the aisle. People clapped. I saw her glance up to the sky, just once. At the reception, she said, "Thank you for showing me what love looks like when it stays." I choked up. "Thank you for never leaving." She moved to Seattle after the wedding. Jordan got a teaching job. She said, "Distance won't change us." And she was right, it never did. I visited every summer. She made the best iced coffee, played jazz on old records. Her home was filled with peace. I wanted to bottle it. One day, Ava asked, "Do you ever wonder if he loved us both?" I answered, "Probably, but he didn't know how to do it right." Love without responsibility is just sentiment. He felt plenty. He did little. That's where the break began. I kept in touch with Marie over the years. We weren't friends, but we were something else. Survivors of the same betrayal. She emailed one day, "I read your book. I cried. I hated you. I forgave you. Mostly I saw myself. Thank you." I replied, "We were both lied to, and we both raised warriors. That's all that matters now." Ava called on her 30th birthday. "Can you believe it? 30. I smiled. "You lived 3 decades better than he ever could." She laughed. "Damn right." Then she paused. "I think I'm ready to have a kid," I said. "Then I'm ready to be an aunt." That night, I looked at the moon and thought, maybe the real legacy we leave behind isn't names or money but the pain we refuse to pass on. Ava sent me the ultrasound photo by text. No caption, just the blurry, beautiful outline of new life. I cried alone in my kitchen, stunned by joy. She and Jordan named him Eli. "It means uplifted," she said. "Like we've tried to be, all our lives." When he was born, I flew to Seattle, held him in my arms, a warm bundle of second chances. "You're proof people get better," I whispered. Ava said, "Promise me something. If I ever start repeating old patterns, call me out." I nodded. "I'll do more than that. I'll walk you out of them." Raising Eli brought up old fears for Ava. "What if I become cold like he was?" she asked once. I replied, "Cold people don't ask that question." Eli loved books, even as a toddler. Sat on my lap for hours while I read Goodnight Moon and The Giving Tree. He called me Tia. One afternoon, he asked, "Where's Mommy's daddy?" The question caught Ava off guard. She said simply, "He lives far away, but we're just fine without him." Later that night, she called me. "Do I lie to him?" I said, "You protect him." That's not the same thing. Eli grew up in a home filled with laughter, stories, and honesty. Ava kept every promise she made to herself. That's how we knew she'd won. I moved to a quieter town, closer to them, wrote from my porch, walked by the lake, built a life that didn't ache all the time. My second book came out. It was about Ava, about daughters who rebuild the bridges their fathers burned. She wrote the foreword. It opened with, "He may have started my story, but my mother and aunt taught me how to write the ending." It got picked up by a major publisher. Suddenly, our story was on morning shows, podcasts, book clubs. People called it raw and necessary. Jordan joked, "My wife's more famous than me now." Ava smiled. Took generations of pain to earn that spotlight. I'll use it wisely. Then one morning, Ava got a letter. postmarked from a nursing home in Ohio. From him, our father. She brought it to me, her hands shaking. Do we open it? I asked. Do you want to? She said, no, but I think we should. Inside, a photo of him, older, thinner, alone, and a letter. He said he was dying, asked for forgiveness, said he wanted to meet her. Ava stared at the photo for a long time. Why now? She asked. I didn't answer. Sometimes silence is the only honest reply. We didn't rush the decision. We sat with it, prayed, talked. Ava wrote pros and cons in a notebook like she was back in school. In the end, she said, closure doesn't come from him. It comes from who I choose to be, whether I meet him or not. Still, she wrote back. Just one sentence. I will come, but not for you, for me. I drove her to Ohio. 7 hours in silence, broken only by playlists from our childhood. The same songs Mom used to hum. We pulled into the parking lot just after sunset. The building was beige and tired. Ava stared at the doors like they might swallow her whole. He was in room 214. A nurse greeted us. He's been waiting, she said gently. He thinks you're not coming. When we entered, he looked smaller than memory. His hair was thin, hands trembling. Ava? He asked. She didn't speak, just nodded once. I stood by the door. Ava sat across from him. You look like your mother, he said. She replied. She said I looked like myself. He coughed, reached for water. I'm sorry, he whispered. That word doesn't fix anything, Ava said. But I'm glad you finally said it. He tried to explain. Affairs, guilt, mistakes, the slow sinking of a double life. I loved both families, he insisted. Ava replied. Then you betrayed both. They talked for an hour. No yelling, just quiet reckoning. At one point, he cried. Not for forgiveness, but because there was nothing left to fix. Before we left, he asked, can I meet my grandson? Ava said no, that boy's life is built on truth. You can't enter it with lies. He nodded. Maybe he understood, maybe not, but Ava hugged him briefly. I release you, she said. For me, not for you. We drove home in silence, but something was different. She wasn't lighter, just clearer, like the fog had lifted, but the road remained. Ava told Jordan everything. He listened, no judgment, just held her hand and said, you are the strongest person I know. Eli never knew his grandfather, but he knew strength, honesty, and love because that's all he ever saw around him. I got a call a few months later. He'd passed. No will, no funeral planned. Ava said, let's not go. I agreed. Still, that night we lit a candle, not for him but for the version of us that once needed his love to feel whole. We didn't need it anymore. We had built something stronger, something lasting, not in reaction to pain but in pursuit of peace. Eli started school that fall. Ava cried. I never thought I'd be the mom who lets go without fear. I said, because you trust what you've built. We walked home slowly. She looked at the trees, the birds, the children playing. This is the life he never earned, she said. But I did. And in that moment, with leaves crunching beneath our feet and laughter echoing in the wind, I knew our story had finally become our own. Years passed. Eli grew taller, kinder, curious. He once asked, why don't we have a grandpa like other kids? Ava said, because we had to grow stronger instead. I watched Ava raise him with gentleness and honesty. She didn't project her trauma, she healed through parenting. She broke the cycle and never looked back. We visited Mom's grave on her birthday. Ava whispered, we did it, Mom. We're okay now. We left sunflowers, her favorite. No tears, just warmth. I turned 40 that fall. Ava surprised me with a handmade book, Eli's drawings, and Ava's handwritten letters about what I meant to their family. She wrote, you were my compass when the map made no sense. You held me steady until I could walk without shaking. I wept reading it. A publisher reached out about adapting the book into a limited series. Ava hesitated. Are we ready to be seen that way? I said, we already are. Ava agreed on one condition. Truth stays intact. No glamorizing the pain. No demonizing or romanticizing the past. Let them see what survival really looks like. The show premiered on a streaming platform. Reviews called it unflinching, raw, and quietly revolutionary. Some people hated it, but many felt seen. Eli watched it with us. Years later. That was you, Mom? He asked. Ava smiled. Parts of me, yes. But I became more than just that. In college, Eli studied psychology. I want to understand how families break and how they heal, he told us. I felt our story ripple forward. Ava spoke at conferences. Domestic abuse prevention groups invited her. She never claimed to be perfect, just willing to speak when others couldn't. One night, Ava received a message from her half-brother, our father's son from the other family. "Can we talk?" It said. No demands, just a question. She asked me, "What if he's nothing like our father?" I said, "Then you'll be glad you gave him a chance." She decided to meet him. His name was Caleb. He brought photos, stories, scars of his own. "I used to think we were the secret family," he said. "Now I know better." He'd grown up thinking Dad was overworked, detached. Turns out, he was just elsewhere, Caleb said. Ava nodded. That's how we knew him too. They kept in touch. Not close, but respectful. Ava once said, "We're not family by blood, but maybe we can be by choice." Caleb agreed. Eli met him too. "I guess we're technically cousins," he joked. "But not the awkward kind." Caleb laughed. "Best kind then." By then, Ava was in her 40s. She'd built a career in advocacy and counseling. Her past became her platform, not her prison. I published a third memoir this time about generational healing. Dedicated it to Ava, Eli, and everyone who's had to be their own rescue. One of my proudest moments was watching Ava speak at a university commencement. "Your pain isn't your identity," she told the graduates. "It's just your origin point." Eli graduated summa cum laude. His thesis? Narrative Resilience. How Storytelling Affects Generational Trauma Recovery. His professor said it moved her to tears. I sat next to Ava in the audience. She squeezed my hand. "We raised him right," she whispered. "With no blueprint, just gut and love." That night, we celebrated with dinner. No speeches, no formality, just laughter, stories, and Eli's awful attempt at making his own cake. It was perfect. Eventually, Eli moved away grad school. Ava cried quietly. "Letting go is hard, even when you've raised them to fly." I replied, "You gave him wings." Jordan and Ava rekindled their hobbies. Gardening, hiking, building birdhouses. "This is our time now," he said. She smiled. "Time we earned." We visited Eli every few months. Each time, he seemed more grounded, more like himself. It's a strange thing watching peace grow in someone who inherited pain. I retired from publishing, bought a cabin by a lake. Ava called it the quiet we prayed for. We spent summers there, reading, writing, talking about nothing. No more heavy conversations, just comfortable silence between healed women. Once Ava said, "I don't hate him anymore, not because he deserves peace, but because I deserve mine." That was the real end of our story with Dad. Not his death, not the letter, but the moment we stopped letting him rent space in our minds. Eli fell in love. Her name was Zora, a social worker. Ava said, "She's what I wanted to be when I was her age." Zora blushed. They visited often. Zora and Ava bonded quickly. "It's wild," Zora said. "Most people have mother-in-law horror stories. I just got a second mom." Eli proposed by the lake. Told Ava first, "You taught me what love looks like. I want to build that with her." The wedding was simple, lakeside. Ava wore a navy dress. I officiated. Jordan cried. Even the ducks seemed to cheer. At the reception, Ava gave a toast to love that isn't conditional and family that's chosen. Everyone stood and clapped. It wasn't just a toast, it was her truth. Years passed. Ava became a grandmother. Little Lily had her eyes, Eli's laugh, and Zora's fearless heart. Ava rocked her for hours, humming old lullabies. Watching them, I felt time stretch and collapse. From broken homes to safe ones, from silence to lullabies, from betrayal to trust. Once Lily asked, "What does your daddy do?" Ava replied, "My mommy raised me instead." And she was enough. Lily nodded, satisfied. I turned 60. Ava threw me a surprise party. "You carried us when you barely knew how to stand," she said. "Now let us carry you." Retirement felt easy with Ava beside me. We co-taught workshops, wrote essays, laughed over terrible wine. Life no longer felt borrowed, it felt wholly ours. Sometimes I still think about Dad, not with rage but with distance. Like a book you finished long ago and no longer need to reread. Ava said, "Some ghosts don't leave, but they do stop scaring you." That was all the closure we needed. Our story didn't end in revenge. It ended in release. And the chapters that came after were softer, but never less meaningful. I published a final piece. We forgave ourselves, it wasn't about him. It was about the lives we lived despite him. It went viral. People from around the world wrote letters. You told my story, they said. But it wasn't just ours, it was everyone's who ever healed. Eli and Zora bought a house. Lily started school. She loves drawing monsters, Zora said. Ava smiled. She's just learning how to face them. On the porch, Ava and I sipped tea. We never thought this far ahead, I said. She replied, that's the beauty, we got to make it up. We planted trees by the lake. One for Mom, one for Ava, one for me. Let them grow taller than what broke us, Ava said. Lily helped us, her hands full of dirt, heart full of joy. Will this tree be here forever? She asked. Ava said, longer than hurt ever could be. When I die, I hope people don't say I was brave. I hope they say I told the truth and survived it. Ava began her own memoir. I want Lily to know who I was before I became this version, she said. The messy middle matters. She called it breaking the pattern. I helped her edit it. She rewrote every draft with the care of someone finally telling her own story. It published to quiet acclaim. Not a bestseller, but it changed lives. And that was all Ava ever wanted. At her book launch, someone asked, do you forgive your father? Ava answered, I forgave myself. That's harder and more important. Lily read the book as a teen. She said, Grandma, you're my hero. Ava replied, be your own. I just made it possible. When Jordan passed away peacefully, Ava held his hand. You were the kind of man I didn't know existed, she whispered. Thank you for staying. We spread his ashes by the lake. Lily threw a flower into the water. Goodbye, Grandpa Jordan, she said. You were magic. Grief returned, but softer this time. Like an old friend passing through, Ava and I sat together, letting it wash over us without drowning. Eventually, Ava and I moved in together. Let's grow old surrounded by our survival, she said. And so we did books, memories, plants, laughter. One winter night, she said, if I go before you, promise you'll tell Lily everything. Not just the good parts. I promised. We didn't fear death anymore, only being forgotten. But our words, our stories, they ensured we wouldn't be. I passed before Ava, peacefully, in my sleep. She found the note I left. You were always more than what he left behind. At my funeral, Ava said, she mothered me when I didn't know how to be a daughter. She saved me with stories. Ava kept writing. Lily helped her publish my journals. They called it The House We Built from Ashes. Readers said, we felt less alone. That was always the point. Not to impress, just to connect. One scar to another. Ava lived into her 80s. Sharp, funny, and honest until the end. She died holding Lily's hand. Lily found her grandmother's last letter. You were never meant to carry my pain, only to understand it, so you could choose something better. She built a foundation in their name. Breaking the pattern. Counseling for survivors. Support groups. Scholarships. A place where healing began without shame. The lake house became a retreat for women who'd walked through fire and still kept walking. Stories were shared like sacred scripture. Photos of Ava, Jordan, and me hung in the hallway. Not as heroes, just reminders. This is what surviving together looks like. On the porch sat a plaque. For those who broke the pattern, visitors left notes beneath it. Some cried, some smiled. Lily wrote her own book someday, called it After the Silence, a love letter to every woman in her bloodline who chose to live louder. She visited classrooms telling kids, you don't have to carry what hurt you, but you can turn it into something that heals someone else. The cycle didn't just break, it ended, fully, in Lily's laughter, in her daughter's first steps, in the echo of our names spoken with love. One spring morning, Lily visited the tree we planted, now taller than the house. She stood beneath it, whispering thanks to roots that ran deep. She told her daughter stories of the women who came before, not just the pain but the power. Your great-grandma Ava turned her pain into power, she said, and your Tia showed her how. In the lake's reflection, they saw not ghosts but generations of strength smiling back. Lily's daughter, hand in hers, asked, can stories save people? Lily replied, they saved us. And in that truth, 1,000 futures bloomed free, fearless, and finally whole. There was no monument to our pain, just gardens, books, children, voices raised in truth instead of silence. We didn't erase the past. We rewrote the future anyway. The house stood strong, Ava's books still on the shelf, my chair untouched. A legacy. not of perfection but of perseverance. Lily's daughter grew up knowing love that didn't come with apologies. She once said, "Our family wasn't lucky. We were brave." And that bravery became the bloodline's greatest inheritance. No more secrets, no more silence, just truth, complicated, painful, but always honest. And through it all, we were more than what he left behind. We were what we chose to become. We didn't win by confronting him. We won by becoming women he could never break. And we passed that strength down not through blood, but through stories. Ava's memoir still sits on library shelves, dog-eared, highlighted, tear-stained, and in each word, another girl finds the strength to choose herself. Because healing isn't loud, it's consistent, it's showing up, again and again. And sometimes it starts with one woman choosing to tell the truth. Just one, then another, then a daughter, then a granddaughter, until one day, silence is no longer inherited. And families look more like gardens than battlegrounds, where love grows tall, and pain becomes mulch, not memory. That's the legacy we earned, and the one we passed forward. My dad lived a double life, but we lived a better one.